Welcome to today's Zoom Palestine's February 7th, 2021 program, which is a poetry slam. Despite some technological glitches, as my internet crashing in the beginning, but we are still presenting our second poetry slam, which we will hold the first Sunday of every month. And today's theme, suggested by Farid Bitar, is how do we feel about the new Biden administration? Do we think there are going to be significant policy changes? Do we have hope for Palestine, or will there be business as usual? We begin this session with a tribute to the poet laureate of Palestine, Mahmoud Darwish, with a video about his amazing funeral in Ramallah following his death in Texas hospital, where he went for heart surgery. His body was flown to Amman, Jordan, and then to Ramallah. Thank you for watching.
An ending that even he couldn't have expressed in words. The life of the Arab world's most celebrated poet is over. How will all those touched by the work of Mahmoud Darwish remember him? Welcome to the programme. I'm David Foster. He gave a voice to Palestinians longing for their own state. Sometimes he was even critical of his own people. On Wednesday, thousands turned out to pay their respects to the poet Mahmoud Darwish. It was the biggest funeral in the West Bank since Yasser Arafat's 4 years ago. Noor Odeh reports on a final farewell.
Mahmoud Darwish mourned in Palestine and beyond. A literary genius known for his humility arrives at the Palestinian homeland for his final journey. Received by the president and dignitaries from across the world, Darwish is honored with a state funeral, recognizing him as a national hero. It was an emotional ceremony.
Mahmoud Darwish was a teacher, a scholar, a shining light in the art of literature and excellence, the essential art for our people's course of resistance. He was a steadfast hero, sacrificing and selfless, a leader of his people on all fronts of resistance.
Darwish was remembered for his uncompromising passion for Palestine, an unmatched courage in challenging everything, including himself. A poet recognized for his invaluable contribution to the Arab language and modern poetry, Mahmoud Darwish left a universal imprint on literature, with his poems translated to over 20 languages.
People are mourning Mahmoud Darwish because they believe in his cause, they believe in his message, and he was the pulse of their conscience.
As his funeral procession started, Darwish was greeted by those who loved him most, the people. It was a ceremony full of symbolism. Next to Ramallah's cultural palace, thousands gathered to receive him at his final resting place, overlooking occupied Jerusalem, a city he dedicated so much of his poetry to. His poetry, however complex, transcended boundaries and educational divides, sung by thousands across the Arab world. One of Darwish's most memorable poems was about longing to return home to his mother, her bread and morning coffee, and confessing he feared dying before her because the thought of bringing her to tears was simply unbearable.
I questioned whether I was the right person to do this programme. Perhaps somebody who'd grown up living and breathing Darwish's work would be better. I thought it might be a little bit like someone who'd never heard of the Beatles doing a celebration of John Lennon's life just after he was shot. But this programme, I believe, is not just for aficionados of Darwish's work, but for those worldwide who might know little of the man but want at least to know something. So I sit here ready to learn why so many have been in tears, why millions feel that they've lost somebody very special. In Ramallah, our guest tonight, Ahmed Harb, a novelist and professor at Birzeit University. In Tel Aviv, Yitzhak Laor, an Israeli poet, playwright and novelist. And here in Doha, Lamis Andonia, writer on Palestinian affairs. Welcome to all of you. Each one of you, I know, a friend of Mahmoud Darwish's. So I want to take a tack in this program where you lead the discussion. I have a few questions to ask, but I really want you to interact with each other, to tell each other what you know about him, what you believed in, where it's no longer an academic dissection, where it goes beyond words. Ahmed Had, let me come to you first, if I may, appropriately enough, in the West Bank. What do you believe the world has lost with the death of Mahmoud Darwish?
I believe the world has lost a great poet, a great human being. The world lost a recognized voice for the Palestinian cause, for the Palestinian people, a voice which embodies the Palestinians' hopes, aspirations for freedom and democracy.
Would he have been a great poet if he hadn't had a Palestinian cause to write about? Must a poet feel pain to be recognized as great?
I think so. I think he could be a great poet without maybe the Palestinian cause, but it seems that, as in any case, with any poet, that the environment, the circumstance of the poet would give a recognized voice, a recognized way of expression. And in the case of Mahmoud Darwish, he gave a recognized expression for the Palestinian cause to all humanity. He achieved, through the Palestinian locality, I would say, the international recognition, and he's succeeded, I think, to extend the word to the whole world.
Lamis, you were telling me that you'd hardly slept since you heard the news of his death. You felt very, very close to him. What's the deepest pain that you feel at the moment, the loss of a great writer, an inspirational man, or a friend?
The fact that he's no longer around. We have relied on him as a poet, as a friend, as a human being, to always incite us for love, invoke the best in us, speak to our inner feelings. He was motivated by love, and he taught us that the motivation should be love for life, because if you want to struggle for justice, it cannot be motivated by hate, but it's the love for life and for humanity that should be our mover. We will miss his presence in our lives. He will miss the fact that he, at every juncture of our history, was telling us how we feel better than we could ever say. He was describing and telling our story, and telling the story of the human condition in a broader meaning better than anyone could say. We will miss his presence. I'll miss him personally. I'll miss him as a Palestinian. I'll miss him as a human being.
Ahmed, you were nodding as Lamis was expressing those sentiments. Let me ask you both, before I go to Yitzhak Laor in Tel Aviv, was he a happy man?
Perhaps not very happy.
Lamis?
Not very happy.
Well, this is why he was so influenced by the human condition. And this is part of his strength, that he couldn't be always happy, because he was able to see the abyss of life. And he would go down to the abyss and pull himself up and pulls us with them, pull our soul. He was able to pull our soul with him and see the light again. So he couldn't have been happy, and that was part of his strength, or else he wouldn't have been as sensible and sensitive to articulate our feelings and the depth of our sorrows and victories and love and anger and rebellion.
Ahmed, he reflected more on death in his later years in a particular way, didn't he?
Yes, he reflected a lot on his death, especially after 1998, and it seems that he was eulogizing himself in his late works. And he tries to philosophize the idea of death, to challenge the idea of death, as if he is saying, in other words, that you, death, will not defeat me. And through that, he's saying that death will not defeat us as people as well as individual.
Let's go to Tel Aviv. Yitzhak Laor, a fellow poet, friend of Mahmoud Darwish's. Was he your friend as a poet, as a human being, or as somebody from another country fighting about a cause?
Well, I guess that the beginning of our connection was about poetry, because he knew my poetry and he heard about my political position, so it was easier to contact each other. Yet the connection was basically on the telephone, so it was not from one country to another, but he lived under brutal occupation. I live in the metropolitan of this colonial project, so telephone calls would be the most appropriate way to describe this friendship. And we did not talk about poetry on the telephone. We talked about, I asked him about his health every once in a while. He asked me about my being, and we talked about politics a lot. So one could say that that friendship was a mixture of all these things.
What did you like about him the most?
The way he used to encourage me. I mean, him in Ramallah, calling me in Tel Aviv, and trying to encourage me and to just to ask and to try and to see the positive side of things. Even if he didn't find much, he would ironically joke about it. I mean, he had a great sense of humor.
Now, at an early stage of his life, Darwish said, against barbarity, poetry can resist only by confirming its attachment to human fragility, like a blade of grass on a wall, while armies march by. After the break, we'll be discussing the role of poetry in changing society. Stay with us, if you will.
Well, no one ever comes on time to a poetry reading.
Well, the organizers who said that there would be something from Mahmoud Darwish at 2:45 should be here.
Yeah.
Well, Jackie had trouble getting on.
Yeah, maybe it is. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Naomi.
Hi, Steve. Hi, Sam. Hi, Yusuf. My friend Nadia's here, but you might be able to hear her on my mic. She's using my laptop, which has got no camera, and I muted her. Otherwise, we'll have a double. We'll have an echo, which wouldn't be good. Yeah. So no one's heard from Jackie.
She tried to sign on 10 or 15 minutes ago and couldn't, apparently.
Oh, okay.
She was trying to connect to audio, or either that or she gave up in disgust after she saw my face.
That can happen, Sam. I've known that to happen. With me
Seems
too.
reasonable
not
to
just
me.
You.
I think I will split from any political party where people don't do that.
Well, we're the Mavericks then. Can't scare us, Sam.
Yeah, but they're not members of a political party.
No.
Poets are supposed to be crazy.
I'm angry with the Green Party at the moment. They're chopping down trees at the foot of my road. I can't understand it.
Somebody's making money.
It is actually all about money. It's about rejuvenating the area in order to drive people down to the supermarket in herds. Yeah. And the trees were...
can't go to anyway. I haven't been in a supermarket since February.
This one is open with queue outside, but this has been planned for 2 years now, so they're just taking advantage. They're pretty much on schedule, actually, I think. It's a gay cruising ground, and I think that's really the reason why they're chopping the trees down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Heaven help people should ever have fun.
Yeah. I wrote a letter to the paper today making that point, exactly. Yeah. Also that, that Brighton used to be renowned for, celebrating wildness and human diversity, let alone biodiversity.
You're in Brighton?
I'm in Brighton, UK, yeah.
I love that town.
It's, yeah, I've been here a long time because I love it too.
Have you been here? When
were you last here?
I don't remember, a few years back, but I during the Maidan movement in Ukraine.
Oh, right, yeah.
And met with somebody who's a Ukrainian activist in Brighton.
Oh, that would be interesting too. I wouldn't mind getting in touch with them. I wrote quite a lot about that.
Well, he was there for a meeting at Alliance.
Oh, okay.
At the AIDS Alliance.
Yeah.
So.
Sorry, everybody. My internet went down just as we started.
Yes, we noticed.
Mission Impossible, of course. So after rolling around on the floor for a few minutes, I got it back. I inadvertently knocked off a plug. I wanted to start out by just playing a video about Mahmoud Darwish for everybody while we're waiting for people to come on. So let's see if I had the screen share going a minute ago. Let's see if we can get it back. Okay, so this is, we may as well finish. Yeah, this one is very short, so we can just play this.
هذا سؤال الآخرين ولا جواب له. أنا لغتي أنا، وأنا معلقتان 10. هذه لغتي، أنا لغتي. أنا ما قالت الكلمات كن جسدي فكنت لنبرها جسدا. أنا ما قلت للكلمات كوني ملتقى جسدي مع الأبدية البيضاء. كوني كي أكون كما أقول. أولا نسخة رأسي مش موجود. تعرف أن أنا ولدت في قرية غير موجودة وأقيمت على أنقاضها مستوطنات. لا أكتب لكي أحاول الإجابة عن السؤال التالي: هل ما زال الوطن في حاجة إلى براهين شعرية؟ أو هل ما زال الشعر في حاجة إلى براهين وطنية؟ أكتب لكي أسدد بعض هذا الدين، وأكتب لكي أحاول القول إن الاحتلال لن يقهر روحنا ولم يمنعنا من التعبير الحر عن إنسانيتنا الحرة. على هذه الأرض ما يستحق الحياة. على هذه الأرض ما يستحق الحياة. تردد إبريل، رائحة الخبز في الفجر، تعويذة امرأة للرجال، كتابات أسخيلوس، أول الحب، عشب على حجر، أمهات يقفن على خيط ناي، وخوف الغزاة من الذكريات. على هذه الأرض ما يستحق الحياة. نهايات أيلول، سيدة تترك 40 بكامل مشمشها. ساعة الشمس في السجن، غيم يقلد سربا من الكائنات. هتافات شعب لمن يصعدون إلى حتفهم باسمين، وخوف الطغاة من الأغنيات. على هذه الأرض ما يستحق الحياة. على هذه الأرض سيدة الأرض أم البدايات أم النهايات كانت تسمى فلسطين صارت تسمى فلسطين سيدتي أستحق لأنك سيدتي أستحق الحياة
Wow. That was certainly a very powerful film and a powerful way to start our session. And as I do each week, I welcome you to Zoom Palestine by lighting a candle in my candlestick from Jerusalem for all of us to be lights for peace and understanding and love and justice in the situation of Palestine and in our world. And I invite all of you to participate with your poetry today. Today is very exciting, big poetry day. And let's see, here's here, Youssef. Hi, how are you? And
are you coming to us from the U.S.?
I'm talking from Greenwich Village in the middle of a blizzard. Actually, I'll show you.
Because your background looks like Palestine.
It does. It's Jerusalem. Actually, it's a virtual painting. This is what it looks like outside now, where I am right now, in a blizzard. I don't know if you can see. Probably not.
We see white.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Well, that's pretty. There's my cat is there. Here's some the West Side Highway in a blizzard. That's what I'm seeing out my window. But behind me there is a large painting of Jerusalem from a historic antique photograph, and it's done by Ihsan Bandak, my very good friend in Amman, who has Bandak Gallery, where I've had exhibitions there, and he was a colleague of mine at NYIT. I hired him to teach painting, and he is an amazing artist. He's done a series of paintings on the war in Syria, and he's from Bethlehem, and he is very passionate about the situation in Palestine. And, you know, the Bethlehem situation is pretty awful for people, and his family is still there. Much of his family is still there, and the rest of them are in Amman, Jordan. So I love his paintings. I didn't get to go to Jordan this summer and visit Palestine and Jerusalem as I usually do because of COVID, but I'm hoping next summer to go back here. And Sam, you're with us?
I am.
Hi, and Cherie. Hi, Cherie. And Naomi, hi, how are you? And Steve, how are you? Are you enjoying the snow in Brooklyn?
Of course. I always enjoy the snow.
Yeah. It's pretty, my grandkids went sledding in Prospect Park with their new puppy, who they put in the middle of them. There was one kid in the front, the puppy in the middle, and then another kid in the back, and they were going down the hills in Prospect Park. It looked just absolutely lovely there.
I love doing that.
Yeah,
I love sledding down hills.
It's just incredible. And Jose, welcome. And who's Waterloo Press here? Is that Alan? Alan, unmute.
I know it's Naomi and Nadia. We're joining from two different machines in my flat so that we can watch in distance. We're buddies, bubble buddies, but we still have to be distanced when we visit each other.
Where in Farid? Where is Farid?
Yeah, I don't know. I heard from her earlier today.
Yeah, it's snowing like heck. Maybe, you know, and I had internet problems, but so maybe that's what's going on. Anyway, I'll start off with I'm not an accomplished poet like everybody, so I can just start off something in the beginning. Farid's idea was to show poetry that had to do with the new administration. And so, you know, it's not easy for poets to write about this kind of stuff. But anyhow, I'm thinking about it. I knocked off this little poem yesterday, and it's called Dream or Nightmare. And starts out, years of despair, morning coffee with grinds of injustice, morning newspapers consecrating sanctification of Israel and demonization of Palestine. But today's headlines, shock of no more arms to Saudi for Yemen, ICC to pursue Israeli war crimes, a Jewish congressman's declaration for Palestinian rights. Is this a dream or a deceptive nightmare that will gleefully lure us into passive oblivion while the bloody heels continue to turn on necks in Gaza, Ramallah, Nablus, and Jerusalem? So,
Beautiful.
Thank you. With that poem, I just want to pose the question of, like, you know, what's really going on and what can we believe? You know, how far can we pursue our hope? So I'm just inviting who would like to start first. Joseph, since you're at the top of the pictures list, would you like to share some of your poetry with us?
I was born in Haifa, Palestine, and I used to cross the Jordan River on horseback as a child.
Oh, wow, cool. Where at the river? Which part?
Husson.
Okay.
Irbid.
Yeah. Way up north.
Yeah. And I was displaced from my home when I was 12 years old.
Oh. Wow.
And I landed at Ellis Island on my 12th birthday.
Wow.
In August 1947. And from there, we came on a train to Michigan, where I've been ever since.
Wow. So you're in Michigan now? I'm
in Michigan, yes.
My gosh.
We have snow, but it's only like 2 inches here. It's more elsewhere.
Yeah.
And I have a website, yusuf.org. If you spell my name correct, YUSIF,
okay,
you'll find a lot of things that I've done about Palestine.
Let me write that in chat, because I don't. So it's YUSIF. Yosef. Dot what? What's your
website?
.org. Okay.
That's it.
.org. Okay, great. So it's in chat.
There's a 15-minute video there of when I was when the FBI came to investigate me for being a terrorist.
Been doing something good.
In 2008, when Obama was first running for president. I think you might find that really interesting if anybody wants to tune into it.
Hi, Farid.
Hi, Jackie.
Yeah, we had a little internet. I had internet problems. I knocked out the plug, and we showed a little film about Mahmoud Darwish, and I read a poem, and now we're listening to Yusuf. Tell us about. Have you been in Jordan or back in Palestine since you left when you were a kid?
Yes, I've been back several times. I've been back to Gaza. I've protested. I've almost got arrested several times. But now they won't let me in because of my activism against Israel.
But you can still come to Jordan. They'll still let you in Jordan. You know.
Well, yeah, I can go to Jordan, but
and you can do stuff in Jordan. Farid read poetry at a cafe in Jordan. You know, Jordan is 85% Palestinian.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a lot of sympathy and a lot of things you can do in Jordan. And they also have regular demonstrations near the Israeli embassy every Friday, usually. So even though you can't go over the river, you can still advocate
Well, you can almost walk over the river now. They've stolen all the
Yeah.
water.
Right, because
Yeah.
it's so small. Yeah, yeah.
So I have relatives in Jordan in a variety of places because when we all scattered, some went to Egypt, some went to Lebanon, some went to Jordan. So, but my effort for Palestine really circles around my effort at world peace. So I'm really I go by the statement, when the power of love overcomes the love of power, there will be peace.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
so my emphasis is on trying to bring an end to wars and bring an understanding about our dependence on nature and on the earth. So I came prepared to say a short poem from Native American tradition that has to do with Mother Earth.
Wonderful. What do you do in Michigan there?
I'm retired. I'm 85 years old.
Oh, so you're
And
a kid.
I retired from the state of Michigan as a psychotherapist. I was helping to rehabilitate teenage boys at the Maxi Boys Training School.
Now you can work on rehabilitating the QAnon people in Michigan.
Oh my God!
You really have your hands full. Your state is full of them crazy people.
Crazies, yeah. Even here in my own county, Livingston County, there are so many Ku Klux Klanners and others. It's just, it's so sad.
Social pathology. I really think of it's like a virus, and it has to be treated as a pathology, as a disease, because
it's a hypnosis. It's hypnosis. Yeah.
So we have to talk about ways to combat. It's something I'm thinking about very deeply because it's so upsetting. I have members of my family, and who believe this garbage. So, we have to think in the future. Let's have a future session about ideas and healing these people from these horrible ideas. But so please read us your poem.
Okay. Teach your children that the earth is our mother. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons and daughters of the earth. This we know, the earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. This we know, that all things are connected, like the lifeblood which unites one family. All things are connected. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons and daughters of the earth. We did not weave the web of life. We are merely a strand in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. Aho.
Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. The Native American tradition has so much, and indigenous peoples all over the earth,
yes,
Aboriginals. And I just was this morning on one of my church Zooms that I had, they talked about that there's somewhere in the States, they're starting a group to create some kind of like a circle of reconciliation and to take people from different backgrounds and different political views and create a dialogue. In the Native American traditions, that's how they resolve disputes. Everybody just has to sit around and talk it out. And I was very happy to hear that, because I think that that the Native American tradition has so much importance.
I just want to say I met Yusuf many years back, and he read something similar in a church on 9th Street, Christopher. And I was very proud that I saw him again, because I believe I saw him in Gaza Freedom March, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, yeah, I remember you there.
Yeah. So, salam.
Alaikum salam.
Great. So anybody else have any comments they want to make? Yeah, Steve?
No, no, not a comment.
All right, should we move on then? So Steve, did you want to read your work now?
I'd be happy to. Now, Jackie, I have a little dilemma.
What?
Because I have 4 poems I might read, and I want you to pick what I should do. I have one poem about the theme for today, which is the new administration.
Yeah.
I have the poem still pending about Ireland and my visit to Belfast, which we put off a couple of weeks ago when we had that session. I have my favorite poem by Mahmoud Darwish, and I have my personal tribute to Mahmoud Darwish, which I read at his memorial in New York City. So, do you have a preference? Which of those I should do?
Well, I think that Farid had suggested something about the new administration.
Okay, I'll read my new administration.
And Steve, maybe you can read. We just saw the Mahmoud Darwish. We saw the beginning of the funeral. I don't know if you saw the whole thing. My internet went off.
I did. Yes. Right.
Yeah. So maybe you could read that too.
Okay. All right. I'll read my. I'll start with the one about the election. And it's not directly about Palestine and Israel and relations, but it's about the new administration. And indirectly, it's about all of that. It's titled, What I Learned from the 2020 Presidential Election. Oh, and the previous one too, and others going back as far as I can remember. That it's like they taught me in elementary school, anyone can grow up to be president of the United States. Think of it. In 2016, we even elected a clown to be president of the United States. My teachers weren't kidding, I guess, when they said anyone. What my teachers didn't tell me, however, is that the clown may have a harder time getting reelected to a second term. Still, it is nice to know. Another thing they didn't tell me, whether the president of the USA is named Donald or Joe or Hillary, Barack or Mitt, Al or George, perhaps even Kamala, if we anticipate the future a bit. You can see where I'm going with this, yes? The empire wins every time. What's up with that? The empire won again on Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. Interesting, wouldn't you agree? The empire is, in fact, on a 59-game winning streak, spanning the last 230 years. Perhaps it's time for us to start paying attention? All right, and I'll do my favorite from Darwish, and then my own poem in tribute to Darwish, in which I reference this one from him. This is from Mahmoud Darwish. I come from there. I come from there, and I have memories. Born as mortals are, I have a mother and a house with many windows. I have brothers, friends, and a prison cell with a cold window. Mine is the wave snatched by seagulls. I have my own view and an extra blade of grass. Mine is the moon at the far edge of the words, and the bounty of birds, and the immortal olive tree. I walked this land long before swords turned man into prey. I come from there. I render the sky unto her mother. When the sky weeps for her mother, and I weep to make myself known to a returning cloud, to break the rules, I have learned all the words needed for a trial by blood. I learned all the words and broke them up to make a single word, homeland.
Oh my God.
And
what's the title? What was the title of that poem?
That's called I Come From There.
I come from there. I'll put that in the chat.
And the translation is, I won't say it's my translation, but what I did is I took 2 or 3 different translations I found and took the parts I left from. So it's kind of an ad hoc translation. I'll finish with this. Called I Did Not Know Mahmoud Darwish Before He Died. And I read this at his memorial in New York City. Consider all the poems I will never know, sunrises I cannot see, songs no one has ever sung to me, all those who walk past on the sidewalk without a name tag pinned close to their hearts. Yet each has a story to tell if only we would learn how to listen. One obituary described him as a poet who was known for political works, but proudest of his personal verses. It is hard for me to determine whether the verse I recite for you now is political or personal. As a fellow poet, I'm inclined to believe that Mahmoud might have shared this conundrum. I did not know Mahmoud Darwish before he died. Still, he helped me learn how to listen to the waves snatched by seagulls or to random beings who sometimes find themselves with an extra blade of grass, sharing words that will sing to us forever, because his was a personal story and his was a political story, and his story can be called by the name Palestine and homeland, which will always remain close to our hearts. I did not know Mahmoud Darwish before he died, and yet I had a chance to know him now, after sunset, decide to weep for each individual who remains unrecognized by a returning cloud, and in this way, tell Mahmoud hello today rather than goodbye. Thank you.
Very nice. Nice.
You've heard both of those before, Farid. You know, I read that at
Yes,
the
I was
that
there in
event in the
person when
village.
you read it. I was in downtown, and you read that memorial thing, and it was well attended by.
Yes.
I remember the name, the place. I mean,
It's
it
that
was a
church.
huge thing, and you read it behind the star, I believe. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
I met you there one time, but it
Steve,
was.
you're going to be publishing that film, that poem?
The poem is up on my website. I can send the link.
Yeah, give me the link. I'll put it in chat.
I can't put it in the chat because I have to go to my website and find it. And
Well,
I
in
can't do that
general,
while I'm online with you
okay.
here.
Okay.
But I'll send it to you, Jackie, and you can
Send it to
send
me.
it out to
I'll
everybody.
include it. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to put that. Great. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love your poem. That line about seagulls was just took my breath away. Wow. Okay. Who's next? Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I see Naomi here. I see Cherie is here.
Yeah. Sam, I think, are you ready to read?
I am. Let
Yeah,
me just
okay, yeah.
let me just pull it up on my screen.
Sam, it's good to see you.
It's nice to see you all. I can't see you anymore though because I've got my screen up. I'll do 2 or 3 depending on how long it takes. All of them are new, you know, as in since the election. The first is called What's Her Name? After she awoke, her dark Palestinian skin scaly as a serpent's, from 3 millennia of salt-encrusted sleep. Lot's wife volunteered for years with a local Louisville liberation group and spoke on national TV about Breonna Taylor and the importance of always saying her name. I don't know if people could hear that through the dog.
Sorry. Yeah, we heard it.
Okay. And the second one, whoops, where did it go? Okay, the second one is called How do I know you love me, America? Because when I was young, your sexy goateed visage flaunted its campy white-starred hat, gave me the finger and crooned, Uncle Sam wants you. Because you lavished money on a telegram asking me for a hot date in Nam. Because even after I spurned that date, you stalked me, eagle-ogling everything I ever said or did. Because your CDC and NIH keep paying me for advice on safer sex, while I pass their cash to socialist revolutionaries you abhor. Because even though those you do not love, junkies, whores, and revolutionaries, have been my lifelong pals, you have not yet bombed me like schoolgirls in Birmingham or Basra. And one last one.
Wow.
Since it's on.
Let me, Farid, could you take over for a minute? I just got a message. My 101-year-old dear friend and neighbor, the EMS has just come. She's next door to me. I have to run and see what's going on. I'll be back. So Farid, would you be kind enough to?
Sure.
DC, and please, and I'm making a film of all of this, so you'll all be on at the end. Okay, I'll be back, hopefully. Say a prayer.
Yes, we will.
Prayers. Go ahead, Sam, continue.
Okay. And this is on a little bit on Farid's theme. It's called Democratic Transition. What if we could hear what Biden and Harris are whispering about as they plan for power, plan our fates? Would we be wowed by wisdom's insights, bored by banalities, or struck and awed by words of megadeaths when America beats off Chinese capital and the air fills with planet-killing smoke from 60 cities bomb-burned for good old USA?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm just going to bring in maybe Cherie, if she's ready.
Yes, I'm ready, Farid.
Yeah, I just want to introduce Cherie McHenry. She's an amazing poet. I'm very honored that she's here. Her son is behind her, I see. And she was, I remember at Westbeth when Naomi had her book released, launched. So go ahead and do your thing. I love it.
Okay, thank you for inviting me, Farid, and Jackie for accepting me. This poem, it's for the first revolutionary that I ever knew. I am a revolutionary poet. No poem comes out of me that does not have revolution at the center. This is for the first revolutionary that I ever met, a conversation between me and my brother. So now your mind can be free to travel the universe, the multiverse, intimately connected to the infinity of things, free to solve the mystery, to evaluate the vectors, the physics of things. I always knew you were greater than air. And finally, you can speak to Einstein and show him where the relativity of his theories failed. What will he say to you in those heavenly climes so far from your mother's kitchen? I always knew you were greater than air. When I looked at you, I could see that this earth could never hold you. From its oceans to its trees, from Birmingham to Cambridge, it could never hold you. Brooklyn tried to hold you with the illusion of poverty, but your mind flew out of there like a kite flying so high on a strong wind, I could barely see you. But what would I have done without you? Had it not been for you, I would have no voice. You gave mathematics in its purest form to both of my sons. I always knew you were greater than air. So now your mind is free. No dialysis, no condescending doctors, no sterile, unsterile tubes, no speaking without speech. You are greater than air. You are everywhere. Your mind and your spirit and your soul, they are free. You are the first of your mother's children to meet God. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. You have one other, maybe short one, or I see your son behind you. Does he have a poem? He's just a sport. Do you have a shorter poem, something short?
I have Blood and Bone. If you give me a minute, I can find it. You want to call somebody else and I'll do Blood and Bone?
I do. I'm going to ask, Naomi's there? Naomi?
Hi, hello everyone. Thank you for all these powerful poems.
Naomi, hi.
Hi. Thank you so much, Sheree. That was such a moving tribute.
Sure.
You brought your brothers in my room, so thank you. Yeah.
This is Naomi, who is British, Canadian, and she actually just finished my second edit, and I got a little bit mad at her, and I sent her a real tough email, and she said, please understand. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. So with that said, and I won't get into the details, I love Naomi. Cherie was in her book launch in Westbeth. Yeah. And we're looking forward to travel again, hopefully soon. Mm-hmm. So with all that introduction, Naomi Foyle.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Farid. Yeah. The book is called Screaming Olives 1948. It's coming out from Smokestack Press by Farid Bitar later in the year. So that is going to be a great event. And I'm sure we'll hear about it here. And the tour will take place as soon as we're all able to fly around again. So I feel a little embarrassed because I haven't written a new poem about the administration, but my basic feeling is, to kind of very much hold back maybe some early, promising signs, but I don't know if they're necessarily promising, really, because I think we all know that, that the empire, as Steve lets us know, is...
Maybe you can also talk about what the UK is going through. You were mentioning that a bit.
Yeah, well, because in the UK, the direction of travel is very frightening, because it's very much now about all the political parties are lined up on conflating anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism.
Yes, talk about
so that. I know that Facebook, this isn't just obviously confined to the UK, and Facebook is now considering making Zionist a hate term, so that if you were to use the word Zionist, it would be equivalent to saying Jewish. So you should never use it. So that's being contested now. I know through Jewish Voice for Peace. That's how I know about it. Signed a petition. But in the UK, it's the government, the Conservative government, is pressuring the universities to adopt that definition of anti-Semitism that uses examples that are all related to, 7 of 11 of them are related to Israel, but also Labour, the opposition, is refusing to allow anti-Zionist Jews to participate in planning and in policy committees. So the frightening thing in here is that it's only the grassroots. It's only at the grassroots that we can have free speech on Israel now. You can't have it in the major political parties.
It also must put some pressure on the universities, and you as a professor, and you mentioned that must be. Go ahead.
Well, it was actually quite extraordinary. Is the word unprecedented has been used an unprecedented amount of times, hasn't it? But in 2020, another unprecedented thing that happened was that the government of the UK told the universities that if they didn't adopt the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism, that they would lose all their funding and they would lose all their degree granting powers. So under that pressure, a third of the universities have caved, and some of those have adopted it, but with a caveat. So my university adopted it with actually quite a well-worded caveat. But nevertheless, it's there now, and those examples are there. And other universities have called the government's bluff and not adopted it. And a couple of them have done so very strongly through consultation processes, where they drew on a number of academics to say how this definition would affect their teaching and how it would mean that there would be certain texts they couldn't teach, whole topics they couldn't teach. And they had to be really kind of coaxed into speaking, because they were even nervous about speaking about it. But the University of Brighton did that, and as a result, they did not adopt the definition. So that's management actually listening to staff. But still, management is still under the pressure from the government. So it's now kind of back in the government's court to see if they're actually going to do what they threatened to do.
Maybe I can change the subject a little bit to something better and nicer. I don't know. You remember we read under Mahmoud Darwish's tree?
We did.
So she's mentioned that in Ramallah.
Yeah.
And you read your poem.
Yeah. We were in Ramallah. Yeah. Launching a blade of grass. Yeah. In the garden of Mahmoud Darwish at the house, where the Hil Sakakini house, where he looked out, had his office and looked out over the tree. Yeah.
That's splendid.
Yeah.
It was very emotional. I loved it.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Naomi, read your poem.
So I'm going to read a poem that's related to a blade of grass, and it's also just related to the grassroots, because I think that's always just where the hope and the pressure comes from, and where any change is coming from. And you can see that in the relationship in, I suppose, in the Democrats between the power elite and the progressives. So this is The Purse, and it's for Doreen Tatur and Einat Weitzman. And Doreen Tatur is a poet in the book, I'm sure you're all very aware of, who spent months in jail and years under house arrest for the crime of writing a poem. And we had the great honor of meeting her. And actually, it was the day before she was sentenced to the final period of 3 months in jail. And actually, I had to go, but Farid was there on the day that she was actually sentenced. And then Einat Weitzman is an Israeli friend of hers who collaborates with her on films. So she has a lot of Israeli supporters. So this was a crowd. This poem came out of a crowdfunding campaign for a film by Einat Weitzman featuring Doreen Tatur. It's called The Purse. And here's the purse. It arrived in it. Yeah. I'll put it up afterwards. Yeah. It arrived in a jiffy bag. My reward for supporting Prisoners of the Occupation, a play by an Israeli woman, banned and denounced by the Minister of Culture, vilified online for glorifying terrorists. Terrorists, like the young woman who'd embroidered 28 purses for the crowdfunding campaign while under house arrest for writing a poem. It was larger than I expected, a flat purse with a metal lip and clasp, covered in black cloth, and row upon row of red circles and green crosses, interlocking flowers and wheels, the kind of pattern the eye just can't stop making new sense of. Simple but complex, molecular, celestial, iconic. and so comfortable in my palm. Holding it was like shaking the capable hand of its maker. The next day I woke up early into a stretch of time I wouldn't normally enjoy, a time for counting blessings, starting with 60 tiny green crosses of 2 stitches each, 56 large green crosses of 10 stitches each, 220 red petals, 24 stitches each, and 56 red rings of 16 stitches each, a total of, I had to get my calculator out, and still I got it wrong, 6,856 stitches. At let's say 10 seconds a stitch, that's 68,560 seconds, or just over 19 hours, allowing a minute every 200 stitches for rethreading and knotting, and 10 minutes an hour for tea making and sipping, adds another 195 minutes for a total of 22 hours and 15 minutes, or just under a long, sleepless day of Doreen's life, of which she has, so far, including the leap year, spent 1,002 days locked up, waiting for court dates, reading Darwish, praying, laughing, and sewing purses full of poems.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Right on, right on.
That's in your adamantine, yes?
That's in and the poem's in adamantine. Yeah.
Naomi, that's one of my favorite poems of yours.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yes.
Absolutely.
It makes me feel warm every time I read it. Thank you. Thank you.
I beg to
She's
differ.
such a treasure. She's such a treasure, Doreen.
I like the one Aher, the blonde girl. I
Oh,
love that.
Ahead, yeah.
Ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to go back to Cherie, a short poem, and then I Frank Romano, who is here, and he honors me to be here, and Jackie as well. Me and
I just
him.
want to give you an update on my neighbor.
Go ahead.
The 101. I've talked to you, about her. People who know me, Edith Steffen. She was a famous dancer, and now she's been making films when she couldn't dance. She got her first film festival award at 90 when she started making films at 89, and she's 101 now. And I'm working with her on her newest film called Silence into Sound. It's a very beautiful concept about improvised music. It's really like poetry. And they just took her away. She was having trouble breathing, and the EMS in the middle of the blizzard here, terrible blizzard, they just took her to Mount Zion Hospital. So just Mount Sinai Hospital. So just keep her in your prayers. She's got to finish this film, but unfortunately her computer crashed yesterday. So we're talking about getting her a new computer. Anyway, just that's what the update is. So
I hope you don't mind, Jackie. I want to get back to Cherie because I promised her a short poem.
Yeah, please, Cherie, please continue.
Okay, this kind of ties into what we're all talking about is, us being together and looking for a better world and finding utopia today. And this is something that I always say Farid inspired me to write, because just by his personality and the force of his passion, I just keep bouncing off of Farid, So this is called Wood, Blood, and Bone. For we are all driven by wood, blood, and bone. The wood of our shelter, or as we would have it to be, the source of our heat and our water. The blood of our ancestors, whoever they may be, and whatever guilt of theirs that we must carry into the 21st century. And the feeling in our bones, those feelings, the ones you protect your heart from, but still feel in your bones. Some say, kill the Arab, kill the Jew, kill the Christian. Oh, child of Abraham, who will kill you? Thank you.
Powerful, powerful. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you read your poems? Did you read your poems?
Farid.
Farid.
Yes, I'm here.
Did you read your poetry?
No, not yet.
Oh, okay. You want to go ahead?
Yes.
Okay.
This poem is based on a song of an Iraqi song in the 50s. And it's a famous poem. And it's a poem about a beauty, a dark beauty that the lover waits for her on the bridge, but she never comes. So an Iraqi famous singer sings it, and unfortunately Iraq is devastated now. His name is Nazim Al-Ghazali. سمراء من قوم عيسى من أباح لها من قومها. A darkened beauty, I think to myself, who gave her permission to ring the bells? And then I come in, and I wrote a poem called Dark Beauty of a Desert. يا ويلا يا ويلا يا ويلا يا غالي علي في جنينه حبي وانا في جنينه حبي وانا في الليله. I traveled 1,000,000 miles to reach my destination that wasn't meant to be. I met a woman that I wasn't allowed to be with, but I finally conquered and had her. I had to have her, but she wasn't meant to be. I watched the snow falling in a pandemic. That's not letting go with the vaccine. I ask, what have I accomplished? Yes, I got that woman. Yes, I got that townhouse. Scrap metal, she calls it. I poured blood and bone. I poured sweat. I spilled my insides looking for a mirage that doesn't exist. I ask, what on earth are we going to? Heading to destruction? Restaurants serving food in the sub-zero temperatures. People still eating out there. Right after the blizzard. I took it. I took that vaccine. My arms swelled like a ball, shaking for days. White hope on the horizon. Another snowstorm hits. Maybe it's an illusion. Hiking up the mountain, looking for the deer I met a year ago when they told me things would be better. Just watching the valley, just watching Zion stealing land, evicting Khan al-Ahmar, a Bedouin town I passed as a child. I still remember passing that town day in, day out when I lived in Jericho. The blizzard, the white hope. يا ويلا يا ويلا يا غالي في جنينه يا ويلا يا ويلا. Dark beauty. Thank you.
Wow, lovely, beautiful, beautiful. By the way, if everybody sends me a copy of the poem that you read, I'll put it on the end of the YouTube video that I make of each session. So you can send me a copy of your poem, and I'll just put it in at the end.
I would like Frank Romano to say something. I remember him there, and you were there, If he wants to say a word or two, I love him. I'm reading his book, by the way.
And he has poetry. He's poems. I'm sure.
Yes,
Frank, you
he
have
does
some
everything.
poems?
And he speaks
I do. I'm honored to be here and listening to all you folks. I'm just moved to passion and emotion hearing what you're sharing. I was in, Kana Akmar, right? And I was underground in Ramallah and experiencing a war-torn, devastated place every day. And weird thing happening when the older folks are burying the younger. It's supposed to be vice versa, but we have those experiences in the States as well. It's just an aberrant phenomenon. And so I wrote a poem, short poem, seeing these Palestinian children going to jail, some of them not coming back, their families having their place all set up or ready to go, and they go out and protest, and then they don't come back alive. It's called The Empty Seat. Empty seat where a Palestinian child should be. But he was killed with live fire. An Israeli soldier was to return from war, but he didn't come back. From an Israeli sniper shooting hot metal at a young Palestinian boy with a rock in hand, way beyond David and Goliath. Played out daily with martyrs and tears falling into the hot sands of the West Bank and Gaza. Empty seat ascending, upwards, upwards, toward the swirling sky, and then descending onto the platform, but nobody enters. A la grande roue shimmers and stirs as the empty seat rises, lightly swaying in the wind.
Wow.
Thank you.
Very powerful. Wow. Yeah.
Very powerful, Frank.
Thank you.
Very powerful. There's someone named Jose here. I'm not sure which Jose. Jose, can you unmute?
I invited him. I invited Jose.
Would you like to read, Jose, something for us?
He's an activist. He's powerful. I believe he said he didn't want to read, but he will be part of this.
Okay.
Jose Rosa.
Jose,
He
would you
honors
like to say
here.
something about yourself to us? No? All
No,
right.
I don't think he wants to read.
Okay. All right. Beatrice, would you like to read something? And Kelvin, I see you're there. If you have
Sorry, yeah.
Oh, Beatrice, maybe Beatrice, are you ready?
I'll read something the next time if that's okay.
Okay. All
Sorry.
right. Okay, no.
Yeah, thanks.
We do this the first Sunday of the month. Is open
Yeah,
session. And Farid suggested a theme for this week, but everything, you don't have to have the particular poem within a particular theme. If you just want to read, that's okay.
yeah, thank you.
All right. Hi, Jose. Oh, we saw you for a minute. Okay, hello. Thank you for showing your face briefly. Kelvin, if you have a short poem for us, we'd love to hear it. I know you have very long poems.
Muted. He's muted.
You're muted, Kelvin.
He's muted.
So
you need to unmute yourself.
You need to unmute.
Go to the bottom left.
Yeah, I got you.
Screen. Oh, there you go. Okay, great.
Well, I thought about, because the other poem I have on this subject, I am writing a bit about Jerusalem, but it's bits and bits all over the place. It's some of the things that I have from my exhibition, which are more regionally related somehow. So let me just pull up those, because I'd like to share a couple of
short
those.
because we're getting
because they're short. That's why I wanted to just, and they're also quite generic, rather than, I love this story style. I love Farid's poem now. I was listening while I was bobbing backwards and forwards. It's very beautiful. just let me open up this PDF. Because my long poem is like, 25 minutes or something. I mean, everything is in there. I didn't have a lot more to say, in a way, because it's so wide sweeping. But let me just let this come up. How is everybody?
Frank, what happened to your nose?
I got in a fight with a door and I lost it.
Oh, no. That's some story, right? At a door. Was the door in a bar by any chance? Was the door in a bar?
You didn't get hit in Khanla. Oh my God.
What happens in Paris stays in Paris, right, Frank?
No.
That's right. That's right.
That's Vegas.
By the way, I saw the Metropolitan Opera is doing free streaming of operas, and I've just turned into an opera freak for mental health therapy. And they did Rossini's Rigoletto set in Las Vegas with the Rat Pack. It's hysterical with the Rat Pack as all the dukes and whatever, all the bad guys. It's so good. It's free on the Met. They have these daily things. But speaking of Las Vegas, so I just
Well, I'm just announcing, if I could just add, I got to see that Rigoletto. I don't know if I like the Rat Pack, but I'd like to see it. But anyway, do you know that the latest news is the International Criminal Court has judged jurisdiction over the Palestinian occupied territories, and I'm elated because I was one of the lawyers that submitted a brief on behalf of the Palestine.
In the article, I've been reading articles about it, and I was looking for your name in the articles about it. Yes,
it was there. We found it. Nisreen sent me a link. Frank was mentioned.
You know what? It's praise the Lord. It's just the beginning, but and I've added that it's possible to add the American administration, Trump and what's his name, Pompeo, as an accomplice. It's complicated, but I think it should be done. And I'm also added a kind of a threat that if President Biden continues these American policies, completely pro-Israeli, not helping the Palestinians, accomplice to the crimes, war crimes, I'm going to add Biden to the complaint. Anyway,
Biden just renewed the aid to the Palestinians that Trump had cut off. UNHRC. So that's
Alhamdulillah.
Good.
Alhamdulillah. I was
the
hoping.
other good piece of news is that he's also ended the giving arms to Saudi for their little adventure in Yemen, So there's some good signs coming up, but I'm sure he's going to be sabotaged.
I'm just going to say something about Biden. Biden is a veteran of many, many years, and he's very, very pro-Israel. I look at him as a Zionist himself because he's very, very pro. And when he was under the Obama administration, he was very, very staunch pro-Israel.
But they also went after Israel for the illegal settlements. They criticized Biden was part of that. So, look, any politician to get elected in office in New York, in the United States, has to say they're pro-Israel. What they really think, we don't know. And I think that there's a possibility because there was another Jewish, and I wrote about this in my poem that I started out with today, that another Jewish congressman, a guy named Levy, and he's from the Midwest or someplace. Michigan, yeah. He came out and said that, thank you, Yusuf. He came out and said that the way to get rid of anti-Semitism was to have justice for the Palestinians, which was a big deal. He came out and said that this week. So, there have been some hopeful signs.
So I just sent a tiny clip of it. There was a speech by Netanyahu the other day regurgitating his anti-Semitism and how we defend ourselves. And honestly, he's not even convincing himself. It's almost like these, Biden and this sitting there reading lines, like most of the politicians reading lines. You can tell that he's rehearsed it. And he's not even convincing himself. He's just so used to saying the same words. I hope that the bottom will fall out of this, really. Now, and especially even AIPAC said, when you look at the lobby, the last statement of their documentary was that the younger generations just aren't buying it anymore. There's too much actual information going out now. So let's hope for a shift.
Supported Trump. Israeli supported Trump big time.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are all the. I mean, it's like what the the Israeli the Pentagon cloud is on an Israeli server.
Yeah.
If people can just think about the implications of that, the Pentagon cloud of the biggest military occupation, grab resources to make the rich richer, etc. And this is international. This is not, I mean, countries is what we are told, but what's really going on is beyond that. And those guys are unaccountable, or they think they are, but they have names and they're very, there's less and less of them, the more wealth they accumulate. So, hopefully there are things that can be done.
Calvin, read.
Anyway, I'd like to read something.
Read a short poem, please.
Yeah. Okay. So this is something just from the exhibition. It's a little bit more general, and I do believe that peace solutions have to include everybody. Oh, I just wanted to say as well, when you look at the proportion of Jewish people in those administrations compared to the proportion of Jewish people in the populations, it's ridiculous. You're talking about like a very small percent against like an almost majority percent. So I'm not saying it's about Jews, and what my poem now, or what my writing is to say that there is no Jews and Arabs. There are no Jews and non-Jews. There's just people. And in that light, the full accountability of truth comes into place of what is really happening. The countries and borders we are sold are illusions that have been put there in order to divide and control.
Can you please read your poem?
Yeah.
Calvin, please read the poem.
Okay, looking through old photos together with some of those this is just something I wrote, who remember the times portrayed sometimes reveal stories more than the scenes alone can show. One gentleman shared that at the time of the old pictures of Amman, if one person was sick, it was everybody's problem. Another told that when farmers went to harvest the bounty of their labors, they would leave behind a portion for those who were in need, who could quietly come and take according to their requirements with no lack of dignity. Others spoke of times in the holy city of Jerusalem at the beginning of the last century when no one asked the other's religion for fear of being seen as someone who may see or treat them differently. Respect. That in both Iraq and Lebanon, people who had lived there for years still didn't know if those who were close friends were Shia or Sunni, or even Christian, if they hadn't seen the lit trees at Christmas. Their respective faiths, like all true teachings, led them to be kind to one another, to consider one another, and not to judge on labels and appearances. They were not a reason to divide any type of them or us. And then there's a quote from Dr. Rauf Abu Jabbar, who was from Nazareth. He was quite an important Palestinian writer who passed away at the beginning of the lockdown. I had the luck to meet him a few times over the years through Ali, and also he came to the exhibition. He became very wise and spiritual in his last years, bless him. The power of local attachments deflates the abstractions that can cloud our common humanity and is a treasure to be preserved through the ages. People what's it called? The Lake Tiberia. I met a Kurdish family from Tiberia. They were saying at the time that they moved there, Arabs, Jews, Christians Muslims, Jews, Christians were like family. And there's one more quote from Dr. Rauf Abu Jabbar about the way that we see the past. And you have obviously the dialogues being changed. Even some of the books are being changed online. It's insane the amount of kind of information control. So this is beautiful. We are challenged to test received opinions of human history and to retain all which is good and praiseworthy in that history. Dr. Rauf Abu Jabbar.
Nice. Thank you, Calvin. He was a great guy. I met him and was very fortunate to have done so. So, Norvi, I see you're on. Would you like to read a poem? Unmute yourself. No? Norvi, do you want to read something? Can we hear you? Nope, I guess not. Okay.
Maybe we can go back to maybe Naomi. She can read one more poem.
Anybody else want to read something? Yeah.
I don't see Naomi. She leave?
Yeah,
no, she's here.
Yeah. Hi, I'm here. Yeah, I mean, I could read Ahed if that's been a request.
Yes,
from
please.
Farid.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So this is for Ahed Tamimi. Ahed. It was the slap that should have been heard round the world. But the girl, though fair-skinned, blonde, her tawny mane an emblem of her young lion's heart, was not fighting for an education or freedom from child marriage, but for rights the world had long ago decided did not fit the grand plan for her land. So the smack of her palm on that soldier's cheek was snatched by the wind for a strictly limited world, then locked up in a box stamped the sound of one hand clapping. And though the stripe marks soon faded and scratches healed, a bruise on the chin of a vulnerable police state is a serious matter. The girl was tried behind closed doors in a military court, and of course locked up too. The little slapper with her blue eyes and golden corkscrew curls was clearly also guilty of impersonating the rightful owners of her home, an Insta-Fada fake, cheap European import, certainly no one who might win a Nobel Prize. So yeah, one of the ways that the Israelis tried to discount her was like by pretending, like saying that she wasn't Palestinian because of her coloring. So it's like the racism of all of it. And and then, you know, there's obviously nothing against Malala in this, you know, it's about, you know, who gets picked to be kind of idolized, you know, lionized, and who gets cast aside. And I know that Ahed Tamimi is now studying law, and she studied law while she was doing her 8 months. So I feel like she's got a very strong future ahead of her in terms of keeping up her fight. Yeah, thank you, Farid.
I love this poem.
For all the poems, and I'm curious now. Before we end, I'd like to have everybody share what they think, you know, is going to happen in 2021. You know, do we see peace in the future, or do we see more conflict, or what? You know, poets, I think, have a certain prophetic ESP. Okay, I think you guys, you know, you have antennas up that other people don't even have. So I really feel that you may have some insights that would be lovely to hear. Yusuf, what do you think? What's your opinion about what do you see coming in the future?
You know, I began a political career, a short one, in 1968 from Oakland County, Michigan, where I ran for county commissioner and got elected, and ran for the U.S. Congress and came within 1% of being a U.S. congressman from Palestine. There was a Silver Dome. I don't know if you know about the stadium, the Silver Dome Stadium in Michigan that was built in Pontiac to house the Detroit Lions. And this morning, given the event about the Super Bowl, I wrote a short thing because when I was county commissioner, they brought the proposal for the Silver Dome, $70 million, and I had my committee turn it down, but it got built anyway. And the media asked me, why are you against the Silver Dome, Commissioner Bearcat? I said, well, in ancient Rome, they used to build stadiums to feed the Christians to the lions. And now you want to build stadium at taxpayer money to feed the lions to the Christians. So this morning I wrote a very short thing. I'd like to read it to you. Happy Super Bowl Sunday. We are definitely in the phase known as the glory that was Rome, where they fed Christians to the lions. We now feed the lions to the Christians. more attention and more money is focused on professional sports in super stadiums than on eradicating disease, eliminating wars, eliminating homelessness, and saving humanity. So it's a bigger picture. It's more than Palestine. It's more than the politics in Washington. It's the whole essence that we revere money more than people. We revere profits more than people. And until that gets resolved, it's going to be dog eat dog all the way through.
Sam, what do you think?
What do I think?
No, I'm talking to Sam. I'm asking Sam. Sam Friedman. What do you think?
Yeah. I just hope that if and as people are able to go out and actually talk to each other again, that the strike wave that has been building and the periodic outbursts by Black Lives Matter managed to come together to tear this whole thing down. It'll take a lot for that to happen, even if the first part happens. I also am a little worried that the next pandemic may come down the road before this one ends. Because we're going to get more of them. I mean, you know, all the signs are there. On the good side, we came up with a vaccine quickly, which of course they're making sure reaches all the wealthy white people quickly, which is yet another set of struggles we have to engage in. So I have no great insights. It's one of these mixed things of real potential at the same time as real potential for disaster, and a climate catastrophe coming no matter what else happens.
Yeah, that's a very important point. I think that the climate catastrophe, you know, the lions being fed to the Christians, as Yosef said, you know, that we have to change our paradigm for survival, particularly regarding climate change. And I mean, Biden has some interesting ideas and he's been pushing some stuff, but we know that all of this is not fully what we need. I live on the Hudson River in New York, and with the Hurricane Sandy, I had over 15 feet, almost 20 feet in my building. Fortunately, I was in Jordan when it happened, but my building was knocked out for 6 months. And
yeah, but I want to say, I'm with Cherie in agreeing that we need a revolutionary change, and that, you know, putzing around with Biden and crap like that isn't going to get us anywhere. Might buy us a year or two of time for the revolution to come, but if we don't get it soon, it's going to be a horror show. One piece of good news I have for Jacqueline: the snow here in Jersey has ended.
Oh, good. Maybe it'll stop.
It will end for you too.
I see. Well, New Jersey's disappeared, which makes me very happy because they have this ugly hotel with a W sign, neon sign on it, which if I had I would shoot it. I fantasize about getting one of those, you know, things they put on the shoulder you see in movies and shoot, you know, across the river. But I can't see it; it's whited out. So Jersey's gone away right now. So, but you're saying it's going to come back? Okay, all right. Thank you.
I would like to issue my protest, Sam.
Go ahead.
That the end of snow is not good news. I always love snow, and the more snow we get, the happier I am. So, just so we understand that we are not unanimous on this point.
Well, the penguins and the polar bears.
Well, I will kick you out of my sex, Steve, because I hurt my hand digging. I hurt my hand and my arm digging the snow.
Well, don't dig it. Just leave it, you know.
We have regulations in my town.
Oh, God, one of those fascist suburban towns.
I like nothing better than shoveling snow. In fact, I
Steve,
have a little poem.
future.
I have a little poem I will share.
All right, go ahead.
It's
I have some poems on it too, but I agree with you.
Steve's secret to a long and productive life. And it goes like this. Get as much pleasure from shoveling snow as you do from writing a poem.
All right.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead, Farid, please. Farid.
Yes, I just want to say a little bit more serious now. With Biden in and with Trump out, and they're still frying his ass, trying. It's not going to happen. I have a little hope. I'm very happy that hopefully the money is going to start coming into the Palestinian people. Not sure how much of it through the Palestinian Authority. And Mahmoud Abbas, he finally is going to do the elections. I'm not sure what he means by that. He overrode 3 times the elections, and he's 84 years old. I'm hoping this administration will do a little bit something, because Obama did not do anything. And Trump took us way back. And that day he announced the American embassy, 57 Palestinians perished demonstrating. And I went independent. I've been a Democrat a long time, and then I just lost cause. We as Palestinians in New York and in the U.S. are not wanted anymore, and I feel that. And I've lived here most of my life. I just hope things will change. My neighbor told me to get the fuck out of here and go back home, and that was a 19-year-old neighbor, and he was empowered by Trump. So I hope things will
move
change.
to New York City, you'll be fine. Nobody will hassle you. You live in Jersey, that's why, but coming to New York.
Jersey is a more messed up than New York. I've lived in New York. I lived on the Upper East Side. I lived in Queens. I've lived, but I'm hoping something will kick in. Naomi mentioned to me something about maybe this year is hope, and I'm hoping to believe that. I'm an artist. I want Palestine to happen. I made a bet with my father, $100, and he passed.
Aren't they?
And he's the one that lost the houses. He's the one that lost his family. I'm living here, but my family is living in Palestine.
Farid, aren't they having an election in Palestine soon?
Yes. In a couple of months from now.
Yeah. Jose, did you want to say something? We can't hear you.
Maybe Naomi wants to say something.
Well, people have been saying a lot of things on my mind. Yeah, I was just thinking about the election in Palestine, and considering all the work that's been done on BDS and how impactful that has been, so much more than what the authority has done. I'm hoping that the election will give a voice to all of those people who can see, what's effective, what works is a human rights-based approach. I'm not Palestinian, so I can't come down on 2-state, 1-state, but I think that 1 state has to be considered. It has to be on the table, because 2-state is, I've heard to say it's never even been born, let alone it's died, It was never possible, never really intended to be possible. So, but what we saw when we traveled, when we went to Haifa, Farid and Rachel and I, who traveled with us, we found that Haifa was the birthplace of the one democratic state solution. And in general, what I take hope from in the world is that the revolution is coming democratically, and it's coming through people understanding that democracy isn't about casting your vote once a year, but democracy is about participating. And the fact that we have this technology now that enables us to do that is helping so many organizations, campaign movements, Extinction Rebellion, Black Lives Matter. What I've seen happen in the last 3 years in the UK that's very hopeful is that Extinction Rebellion has gone from being very white dominated and very white run and expressing that in their rhetoric and in their points that they're trying to get across, the substance of them as well as and in their strategies, has now moved to really take an anti-racist approach. It's a bit patchwork still because it's happening more in some local branches than others, but it's definitely happening. So Black Lives Matter last summer showed us what can happen so quickly, and that you could never have predicted that at the start of the year.
Right.
That suddenly in the UK you'd have institutions talking about systemic racism, and that you'd have all of this pressure that's been built up over statues for like a number of years now would all of a sudden be mainstream news and all of a sudden would be happening. So names coming off buildings, you know, statues coming down in the aftermath of just the one statue, the slave Edward Colston being pulled down, other institutions then started to take them down. So I think there's a lot to be hopeful for, and I think that the idea of both and, you know, democracy and revolution, you know, revolutionize democracy. That's where I'm coming from. And that's what gives me hope, really. And I think I see that in the younger generation as well, because outside of Extinction Rebellion, we also have the youth movement for the climate, and they are organizing themselves. And that is so powerful because that's a generation that is politicized, which certainly, you know, I was a young politico, but that was from my parent, you know, my dad, you know, my family I grew up in. It wasn't en masse, you know, at my school that everyone was out demonstrating, you know, every week. So I think there is a lot to, you know, we have to just keep our voices high. We have to empower, you know, and inspire and praise and encourage everyone who's trying to make the world better, because we're up against really, you know, still up against Trumpism. We're up against Christian Zionism. I watched a documentary on that the other day. So we just have to keep the faith, you know, whether it's secular faith, religious faith, keep the faith in our shared humanity and in our humility in the planet. Yeah. So
I just want to say the dialogue engaged here, because what I agree with what Naomi talks about, and Sam talked about it too, in terms of the hope that comes from people on a mass level reconsidering old ways of thinking. But I'm also struck by something else, which is how much of the result of that is a focus on trivialities or secondary aspects without dealing with the substance. And I was struck, I listened to sports radio in New York, talk radio, and I hear these sportscaster talking about white supremacy all of a sudden. I mean, this a year ago never would have happened.
It's been a huge seismic shift.
And yet, white supremacy for this person was just some bad ideas that we have in our head. Whereas the reality of white supremacy is a global system of domination.
Right.
And getting rid of the symbols and the statues, which I'm all in favor of, and changing the Confederate flag out of the Mississippi state, it's all wonderful stuff. It doesn't solve that systemic reality of white supremacy. It just gives it another shape and another form. So there's the hope, and then there's the struggle at the same time.
Can
Eric,
I say?
did you want to say something?
I have to go, so goodbye all. I have a
I
meeting.
like you. You're very nice, man.
Sherry,
you.
Good luck then.
Can I say something?
Maybe Cherie wants to say something.
She does. She's trying to talk. Yeah.
Cherie?
Yeah, that's okay. It's about something that was said earlier about if there's justice for the Palestinians, anti-Semitism will disappear. And to me, that feels a bit like anti-Semitism is being blamed on the Palestinians. And that's not right, because that existed long before, you know, the injustices. And we have to get this idea out of, you know, people's head. Anti-Semitism started in Europe, persecuted by the Christians in Europe, and you know, it's very important to get this idea out of people's minds, because this is doing damage to the Palestinians.
What I think why the congressman made that comment is that we know anti-Semitism goes back to the ancient world. The Romans were very anti-Semitic. So, you know, this wasn't invented by the Christians. This went way back in history. But what the point Levy was trying to make is that there is anti-Semitism. And when you see injustices perpetrated by Israel on Palestine, that unfortunately increases the anti-Semitism that already exists. So it gives anti-Semitism another excuse, you know.
I mean, unfortunately, I agree with you that there are some racist anti-Semites who might try to hijack the Palestinian cause. And, you know, you have to be alert to that. That does exist, unfortunately. But generally, anti-Semitism isn't to do with the Palestinians. It's to do with deep-rooted racism in European history,
right,
which persecuted not just the Jews, but the Gypsies and others, you know, that were seen as outsiders. And I just think it's very important to underline that. Sorry, I just feel very strongly about it. My son is half Palestinian, and it upsets me when I hear these things because I take it very personal.
Right, absolutely.
Palestinians are Semitic. We are the children of Abraham, so we're Semites as well as the Jews. So
exactly.
I wrote a screenplay in 1977 that is a paradigm shift that I'd like to share with somebody. Maybe Jacqueline, you might be someone I could share that with and see if we can do something with it, because we really have to have a complete paradigm shift in culture and in thinking, and it can't be just a remake of what we already have now. So I'd like to share that, and I'd like to ask Frank if
yeah.
I would like to hear from Cherie and Frank. We haven't heard from an opinion or comment.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
All right. Sorry, Frank. I'm listening to everyone's comments, and you know, every culture has their struggle. You know, so I don't have to review all of the struggles that African Americans have faced in America. We all know about that. Okay. But one thing that I've learned throughout that struggle is the primary issue when we talk about racism, regardless of where it comes from or what the anti is of the particular moment, it's always competition for goods and services. When we talk about power, we're not just talking about power, we're talking about money. We're talking about the ability to move. We're talking about the ability to eat. We're talking about being warm in our homes. We're talking about having homes. We're talking about having opportunities. So when we talk about racism or any ism, you know, or anti-ism, we have to remember that right now, I went to Stuyvesant High School, so I'm kind of like a scientist / literature person. And right now, we have the science in place to feed everyone on the planet.
Right.
We also have the science in place to house everyone on the planet, and we can clothe everyone on the planet. We also have alternative energy sources that if we up the progress of moving towards cheaper energy sources, then we can free our minds and we can love each other without reservation, because you're eating, I'm eating, we're all getting the benefits of God's planet. Amazing. So that's what I see.
I agree. All right. We have to end. Frank, did you want to say something quick?
Something very quick. I was in Detroit recently in an African American, having an author event for Love and Terror in the Middle East with some an African American bookstore, and a discotheque at night. And I saw a lot of activity long after really a lot of the Black Lives Matter groups came together. I was encouraging, because I'm way back, I'm an activist in the Vietnam War and saw jail for the first time during that struggle, and definitely empathized with Black Lives Matter because I come from a poor Italian family and we were in ghettos. We knew what the struggle was, but I felt the energy there in Detroit and this place, as I felt in New York City when I was there recently, and I was involved in one of the parades. With Black Lives Matter is almost like a synonym for bringing people together, as you're saying, Cherie, for the basics. We need the basics and the love and the unconditional love, all ethnic groups together. And then in Portland. But I was disappointed that I didn't see enough of this happening. In other words, when Obama came in office, a lot of the activists kind of lowered their guard, says, we got an activist in the White House. Well, he was an activist at one time. He clearly did not manifest compassion and activism for the people in general. Didn't really do that. And I'm asking people, with Biden in office, we need to get back to the basics, back to the streets, all of us together. I think we will make the change that you're talking about, Cherie. You're talking about Yusuf and Jackie and Naomi. We're talking about getting together. We're going to have to get back in the streets globally, and we're going to have to do it ourselves, because we can't count, obviously, on the powers that are supported a lot by this white supremacism thing, and also ethnic cleansing thing, and the money thing. We need to do it. I don't know how, but I think we need to continue this revolution that's been long needed. It's not just now, not just during Trump, and hopefully we can get back in the streets and do this and not let this momentum go.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, okay. Do you want to say anything?
Frank, I'd like to offer my name to your lawsuit, because I'm a refugee from Palestine, and I could be a plaintiff in your lawsuit. Please discuss it with me if you want.
Great, I would love to. Thank you.
Connect with each other. You all know my email. I think it's jtaylorbasker@gmail.com. So send me copies of your poems, and if you can't find each other's email on those, I send them out BCC, so everybody does this. So if you want to talk to each other, just tell me and I'll hook you up, send you the email. I try to keep it private because, there's so many lunatics floating around. Hate.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much for listening as well.
May your light shine brightly and bring truth and love and the paradigm change in our world, and let's keep hope alive. Amen.
When the power of love overcomes the love of power, there will be peace.
Moment. That's a great one.
Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Thank you. See you next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you very much for your company and time.
Thank you, everybody.
Everybody for
I
joining.
love what Cherie said. This is really nice. I hope that this will be uploaded so I can quote it.
It will. Yeah, I'm gonna make it into a little movie.
Bless you all. Thank you for sharing. I love you.
Frank, by the way,
man.
I found the files for the interview you did with the leader from Khan al-Ahmar. I finally found them, so I'm going to make that into a YouTube.
Frank, congratulations. All your efforts do pay off. Sometimes we have to push and push. Amazing, really. Well done.
Bye.